Airtech Soldier here, and I'm back to talk about Jurassic World Domination and my thoughts on this film. Now, I'm going to start off with saying where I'm coming from on Colin Trevorrow, just to be, upfront. I like Colin Trevorrow. I think he's a great director, and I like a lot of his films. I also like the fact that when he gets criticism from fans, he doesn't go out and call them racist, sexist, and have a fucking picture of him saying fanboy tears. And also the fact he defended Star Wars fans and told Kathleen Kennedy to fuck off when he walked away from Star Wars. And I liked his version of the Star Wars movie that he was going to do until Kathleen Kennedy pretty much told him he had to change that because of that prick Rian Johnson. So I'm a fan of him. I'm a fan of his. So that makes this review hard because this movie is bad. And when I say it's bad, I don't mean it's terrible. I just think it's boring. And a lot of stuff in this movie doesn't fit in Jurassic World or even Jurassic Park. I think it's more of a spy film than it is a dinosaur film. Now, I would like to say that the CGI was great and the realistic effects from the dinosaurs that weren't CGI'd, I think they were great too. I think a lot of the stuff other than the film was good. The, filmography, the picture progression, all that stuff. Yeah, I think that's great. This movie is too long. It's pretty much, what's going to happen all throughout this movie. You know who the bad guy is straight from the start. And the Jurassic World characters, they're not great. I mean, I love fucking Chris Pratt. I think he's a great actor. As Owen, he doesn't change. Not that much. He's the same Owen from the first film to the last film. And I'm saying that's a bad thing, but it's just not that entertaining for me. The rest of the cast was fine. Again, the legacy characters, I think Colin Trevorrow did fantastically with them. He didn't create some shitty backstory for them. He didn't put them in like shit jobs or try to bring them down or say that they get divorces and shit. Well, he actually did with that. But what I'm saying is, he didn't do what Rian Johnson did. He didn't do what J.J. Abrams did. He brought the three together. Okay, he brought the three together. They felt like they knew each other. And it was great to see them interact with each other. I think that's great. But that's the only plus I can give this film. The rest of the cast, I couldn't care less. So I just want to go into spoilers now. I mean, I am gutted. I am very gutted that I didn't like this film. Because again, I did like the first one. And I thought the second one was okay. Not perfect, but okay. But I gotta be honest. I had to check my watch a couple of times to see if this film was nearly over. And that's not a good sign to me. So if I'm going to give this movie a score out of 10... Oh, damn it. I gotta give it a 5. That's the best score I can give it. Because it wasn't great. So that's my non-spoiler review. We're going to go into spoilers now. So if you don't want to hear spoilers, leave in 3, 2, 1. So this movie starts off with telling us what's happened in the world. We start off with this news report who tells us about the fact humanity and dinosaurs are having to live together now, and it's starting to get dangerous for people. We see a scene of a sea monster dinosaur jump up and attack a fishing crew, and they all die. The governments around the world are trying to figure out what to do with these animals, and then a company called Bios or something? I think it's Bison. Anyway, so a company called Bison has decided to come out and help the world. saying that they will take the dinosaurs and put them on an island and start to create systems from them, and cure diseases and cure cancer with dinosaurs, like learning about them, experimenting with the dinosaurs. And this company's trying to seem like a very nice company. And when I saw who was running the company, which was what's his name, Dyson, not Dyson, Lewis Dodgson. Now, if you don't know who that guy is, if you've watched the first Jurassic World, he's the guy who pays for that computer guy to steal the embryos or whatever from the park. So when I saw it was him, then it's obvious who the bloody bad guy is for the whole of the fucking movie. And it's obviously that this company that he works for isn't legit, which I think is kind of pointless then if I already know who the bad guy is straight from the start. This is like about 2 minutes into the film and I already know who the bad guy is. So I think that's pretty dumb. So we then go to a scene where we see Maisie on her bike riding around where she's hiding from the authorities, because the authorities are looking for her because she's the first cloned human, and there are people out there who would love to kidnap her and experiment on her, because again, she's the first technically a clone. But she's not really happy about having to hide away. She wants to meet new people, so she cycles out to try to do that. She goes to some building site where we see two Diplodocuses, I think that's what they're called, and the workers are trying to move them away from the site so they don't get hurt. And she pretty much tries to help them do that. We see Owen riding his horse, chasing some other dinosaurs. He manages to capture one and brings the dinosaur back with him to their hideout, where we then find out that Claire is a activist who's helping her friends, release dinosaurs from enclosures that are, dinosaurs that are being kidnapped and experimented on, and they steal a baby dinosaur away from bad people. They get chased by these bad people, but they go into some rhino dinosaurs. Again, I'm just going to say it, I'm not a dinosaur guy. I don't know what these things are called, okay? I'm just being honest. Okay, it's the horned dinosaurs. That's as best as I could do. Okay, so they run into these horned dinosaurs, and the horned dinosaurs just crash into all the bad guys. Don't know why they left the van alone, but apparently they did. And it turns out she's working with the screaming guy from the second one and the doctor girl from the second one. But they have told her that they want to leave because they're not interested in freeing dinosaurs anymore. They have real jobs to get to, and they're sorry they have to leave her. And one of the guys, the screaming guy, the job he gets is very, very surprising to me, because how he can get a job like that whilst being so scared of everything is beyond me. Anyway, so Claire goes back to the shack with Owen and the girl, and she's trying to look after Maisie as her own, but Maisie's a teenager now, and she's going to go through all the teenager bullshit. The strops and being like, you're not my mother. And yeah, that's pretty much her character in this film for most of the film. So the next scene, we go to somewhere in Mexico where a couple of kids are feeding some chickens, where they are then attacked by a swarm of locusts. But these locusts are different because they're bloody huge, and they attack the field and start eating it, and they attack the children, but the children manage to get into a shack safe. And the next scene is Dr. Sattler going down there to investigate what's happening, because the main plot of this movie is that the locusts are destroying the Earth's food supply. And when Sattler gets there, she talks to this, I think the farm owner, who tells her they've only attacked one farm, but they left the company farm, which is the Bison farm, which is that company who says it's helping people. They left that farm alone because they use special wheat that apparently the locusts don't go near. So if you're not obviously thinking that they are the bad guys in this film, then you're not paying attention. So Settler goes to find Alan Grant because, again, she misses him, but she needs his help because he can help her get to Bison's Island because they need her to have a partner, and he's just happy to go because he misses her. And I kind of think when they meet and she pretty much tells him that she's divorced but her kids are fine, they do fix something from the Jurassic Park 3 film, which was having Settler and Grant split up, which was ridiculous because, you know, they went through Jurassic Park 1 together. It's like, it would have to be the most stupid reason for them to break up at this point. So I've always kind of felt like that was a wrong decision for them to go down, but in this film they fix it. So I will give credit to Trevorrow for that. Anyway, so she asks Grant to come with her. He says yes, and they head off to the island to, well, find out what's going on, because the locusts are pretty much affecting the world's food supply, and if they keep going on like this, there will be no food for the things we eat, like the cows and the sheep, and if they die, then we have no food, and there's going to be millions of starving people. We go back to Owen's shack, or whatever the fuck it's called, and Maisie comes back on her bike, and, you know, Owen asks, is she okay? And Claire asks, she didn't go over the bridge. I mean, she did, so she lies to them, and both Owen and Claire know that she's lying, but she's a teenager, and they don't really want to push the issue, let's just say. But Maisie then tells, you know, Claire she's not her real mother, and she's not the boss, and, you know, again, acts like a typical teenager. We then get a scene between Owen and Blue. Turns out Blue has had a child, and when he tries to get a little close, Blue is kind of very protective of her child, and Maisie asks, how did Blue, you know, conceive? And I think Claire says, well, she's A positive or asexual, so she can reproduce without a dude, basically. But Blue and the child run into the forest, where it turns out that Blue is being watched by poachers. Now the poachers are being hired by you-know-who, Dodgson, to capture, because apparently Blue has some, you know, geno inside her that can help Dyson control the locusts. But they also spot Maisie, and they decide to try to kidnap them both. And I'm going to try to rush through this. So they set a trap for Blue, but the child manages to get caught. Instead of Blue, they grab the raptor child, and they then grab Maisie, and both get transported to the island. Owen and Claire decide to go after the kidnappers, but Blue turns up at the shack, and Owen tries to calm Blue down, but Blue kind of nearly tries to bite Owen, and Owen then realizes he is kind of losing control here because Blue is just that pissed off, so he's very wary about her. Anyway, so he promises Blue that he's going to save her kid and save their kid, and they head off to track her down. but Claire decides to ring up Screaming Guy to help them find the poacher. And it turns out the Screaming Guy has been hired by the CIA. And I kind of laughed about this because, again, this guy is terrified of everything. Why the hell would he join the CIA? I know he's a case officer, so he's pretty much stuck in an office. But still, I mean, it's a CIA. I mean, it's a pretty dangerous job. But anyway, so the Screaming Guy tells them where they can find the poacher. And it turns out he's in Milan, and that's where they need to go. But it turns out he's not the only person in Milan. There's also the French guy from the first one, who is called... I didn't write his name down, but it's basically... You know the French guy from the first Jurassic World who's working with Owen with the raptors? It's that guy, that black guy. He's now a French intelligence officer who is in Milan to try to capture poachers and, you know, people buying dinosaurs. So they head to Milan to go find Maisie and the baby raptor. And when they get there, they pretty much have to go to... Well, they go see the French guy. He leads them to a, you know, underground dinosaur fighting ring. It's like a chicken fight, but it's with dinosaurs. Where they sell dinosaurs, they let dinosaurs fight, and you can eat dinosaurs because they start cooking some dinosaurs. And the next scene is Maisie and Blue being handed off to different people to be transported to the island, where we meet Waters, who is a pilot who's going to be transporting the baby raptor to the island. But she spots Maisie and doesn't really know what to do in the situation, but she then decides to just let it go because it's not a problem at the end of the day. And she transports the raptor to the island, heads back to Milan, where she then bumps into Claire. Claire asks her for her help because she's American, which was odd to me. I mean, she's American, doesn't mean she's a fucking, you know, good person, does it? I mean, I bump into a British guy on holiday, I'm not going to automatically think this guy's going to help me. But Claire asks for help, Waters says no and walks off. And then Owen, with the French guy, they try to capture the main poacher, which turns out to be some woman person who's, you know, dealing with Dodgson, who hired her. And she needs these poachers to transport, well, these other poachers to transport controlled raptors. Because, you know, with that guy in the first movie wanted to, Owen to make raptors who can attack their prey. Turns out this woman has already done it and now has raptors that she wants to sell to bad people so they can use them as weapons. So while she's trying to do this, turns out one of the poachers is an undercover French agent, turns to go on his partner, and they try to arrest the lead poacher woman, but she releases the raptors and they attack all the French police officers. Unfortunately, well, actually, the French guy manages, well, the French agent goes into a bus or something and manages to block himself in so the raptors can't grab him, but Owen gets just in time to pull him out and they pretty much run from the raptors, or at least run a little bit, and then Owen gets the French guy to stand in front of a cage where they trick this raptor into the box, well, back into the box, and close it. At this same point, the woman poacher is running and she's being chased by Claire, and Claire manages to chase her into some random room where the woman poacher turns a signal onto one of the raptors to attack Claire, and then Claire has to start running from a raptor. I didn't really like this scene because it was obvious Claire could not outrun a raptor, and it was kind of ridiculous at how far she was getting without the raptor killing her. So, sorry. At this same point, Owen then gets into a fight with the poacher who stole Maisie, and whilst they were fighting with each other, they accidentally released two massive Rex looking like dinosaurs which start attacking people all over the place. and Owen manages to beat the shit out of the guy to the point where he says where they took Maisie. And so Owen then runs off to try to get to Claire or somewhere, I'm not really sure. He grabs a bike and then chases... Oh no, they have a plan, sorry. Claire tells Owen where they're going to go, which is to the airfield, because Walters comes back and helps Claire from the Raptor. They get onto this weird van thing. They drive off, getting chased by raptors. Owen then grabs a bike and then he gets chased by raptors. And then we just get a massive chase scene, and they get to a plane and then fly off and head to the island. I know this is boring, but this film needed a lot of work in my opinion. Like a lot more. Back on the island, Sattler and Grant get to the island, and they're then, having a guided tour with a guy called Cole, who is there to tell them what the park's about and what Bison does. And how the fact they're trying to cure cancer and all this other stuff. They also bump into Dodgson, who tells them, "I'm glad they're here, and I can't wait for you to see what work we are doing to improve humanity." But it also turns out, whilst they're there, Sattler got a message from Malcolm, who's told her about the fact the locusts have come from this island, and Bison is the ones behind it. I keep thinking the name Bison is wrong. That's what I've written down. I could be wrong about the name. Just go with it. It's the bad company. There you go. So they go talk to Malcolm, and you then start... And again, it was great seeing them with each other, because again, it gives you like the feels of like the first movie and how they were with each other. How Grant kind of feels a bit threatened by Malcolm, and a little bit protective of Sattler, which I kind of think is a bit weird when she's single, but there you go. He still feels protective of her from Malcolm. So Malcolm pretty much tries to... he hands them some device to get through all the doors. It's a code chain thing. And tells them they need to go down to the lower levels, where they will find a swarm that they can, take a sample of one of them and show the American government that bison are the ones who release a swarm on the world, and the ones who are trying to take over the world food supply, because that's what this is all about, basically. And it also turns out that Dodgson is working with Dr. Wu, and I'm kind of sick of seeing Wu now, because this guy should be in prison for the amount of shit he's caused in these last 3 movies. I mean, for God's sake. So Wu tries to tell Dodgson that they need to find a way to kill the locusts, because they're pretty much destroying the world's food supply, and if they don't get control of this now, they could lose control of these things, and it could probably start a world pandemic or world food issue. But Dodgson doesn't care. He wants to take over the world's food supply, and he wants to make a shitload of money, basically. So he tells Wu, just focus on getting control of the locusts, not trying to kill them. So Sattler and Grant manage to get down to the lower levels using Malcolm's keycard, I think it is. When they get down there, they grab some suits and try to run around the place, and they then find a laboratory with locusts in them to get a sample from them to prove that it's Bison who's involved in the swarm. But when they try to leave the lab, the swarm then wake up and start attacking them, but they manage to get into a security door and get out of there before they're killed by the swarm. At this same point, Maisie is then introduced to Dr. Wu, who tells her that she's not really a clone, but she is in fact the actual daughter of Dr. Lockhart, which is her mother. Turns out that she is a clone in a sense, but she did grow in a woman's womb, and she did come out naturally. The only thing her mother did to her was to take her disease that she was carrying and make sure that Maisie did not carry the same genetic defect as she did. So she's technically not a clone, but she is. And it is also changing the story from Jurassic World 2, because that was supposed to be her granddad who created her. Turns out no, it was her mother who created her. Now Dr. Wu needs to study her and the baby raptor, because there's something in their genes that he can use to control the swarm and make them stop attacking the world's food supply. Or at least that's what he tells her. Anyway, at this same moment, Owen, Waters and Claire are in a plane heading to the island, and when Waters tells the tower that they're coming in for a landing, Dodgson hears them on the radio and finds out that they're the parents of Maisie. He sees them as a threat and then tells the tower to turn off the system that's stopping the massive birds from attacking the plane. So when he turns that off, one massive dinosaur bird attacks the plane, manages to destroy both the engines, and the plane just starts falling. Owen tells Claire to take the only parachute chair and tells her that she'll be fine and that she'll survive, and if there's any problems, don't forget to pull the emergency chute on the top of the chair. So she then gets blown out of the plane on the chair. She pulls the ripcord to release the first parachute. She is then attacked by a couple of birds, and then she remembers what Owen told her about the second parachute. She releases that, gets down to the ground safely, but she did just land on an island full of dinosaurs, so safe might be a bit, of the wrong word. So she then sees that a deer gets attacked by some dinosaur with massive claws, and this dinosaur turns out that it is a herbivore, but it does kill for some reason. Don't know why, it just does. And then the dinosaur then chases Claire, but she manages to hide in a lake, and then the dinosaur, the claws, that just walks away. Owen and Waters are still on the plane. It's about to crash, but they manage to crash into the ice lake, and they survive the crash landing. When they leave the plane, this happens to be my favourite bit. We then see for the first time on screen a real depiction of a velociraptor. Because a velociraptor is not a lizard. That is a mistake. Because you've got to remember, dinosaurs are descended from birds. Birds are descended from dinosaurs. So dinosaurs have feathers on them. So that is a real depiction of a velociraptor. So the real depiction of a velociraptor chases Owen and Waters. They run, they manage to fool the velociraptor a couple of times, but the velociraptor then falls into the lake, but it turns out it can swim. Owen then accidentally falls into the lake as well, but he manages to put himself out. They then run to a gate where they manage to close it in time, and then the velociraptor is then, it then can't chase them anymore. At this same time, Maisie then decides to escape from Dr. Wu, whilst Dr. Wu is talking to Dodgson, and she manages to grab Blue, but when she gets out of the room, baby Blue runs somewhere else, so she has to find help. She then bumps into Settler and Grant, who help her get to a train, where they bump into the guide guy, Cole, who tells them that he's helping Malcolm, and he's the one who told Malcolm about the swarm in the first place, the locust swarm, and the one helping to try to bring down this company because he knows what this company is actually doing. So Cole unlocks the train for them. They get on the train and then they get sent back up the top, where Dodgson then shuts the power off to the train. They have to go through a tunnel that's got a cave system that's got a lot of dinosaurs in it. They manage to get through that. Dodgson also then fires Malcolm because he knows he's the one that's been working with them. And so he asks him to return the key card that that he's given to them. So he then leaves. Malcolm leaves, and he bumps into Cole. Cole helps him get a car so he can get to the cave where Settler and Grant are with Maisie. When they get to the end of the tunnel, they're being chased. Settler, Grant, and Maisie, they're being chased by dinosaurs. They get to the gate, it's locked. Malcolm gets there. He tries to unlock the door with the code. He starts saying some funny things like, "Calm down, we'll get through this. There's no point being all emotional in this situation," which I kind of thought was funny. But whilst he's trying to unlock it, Cole finds a computer and just unlocks it for them, and they get out safely and shut the door after them. I'm going to try to rush this a bit because this review's gone on way too long. So they get into the car, they drive off, and they're attacked by... Oh no, hold on. They do drive off, but whilst they're doing that, Dodgson decides to destroy the evidence of the locusts and just tells the scientists to burn them all and burn all the evidence. But when he does this, the swarm kind of react badly to it, and they manage to break out of the lab, and then they fly over the island, setting alight to everything, which then puts the island then has to go into emergency lockdown and get all the dinosaurs to safety. He doesn't want to do this because this will mean that the UN will come and investigate what's happened, and they're going to find out what he's been doing. So what he does is he runs to his office where he tries to collect every file he has and all the samples he has, because apparently he also found the can. Now if you don't remember what I'm talking about, the foam can, the one he gave to the computer guy, yeah, he found it. So he has all the dinosaur DNA he needs to, I think, create a new park or something. So he has that can. He's then confronted by Cole, who pretty much admits to him that he's the one who told Malcolm about everything, and he's been the one trying to destroy his company, and he pretty much gets really pissed off about it, but Cole just walks away from him. Next scene is Claire being chased by those dinosaurs that shoot poison out of their mouth. You know, the ones that killed the computer guy? Well, she's attacked by a couple of them, but Owen gets there, grabs the dinosaur and throws him away, and then Waters zaps him with some what's it called? Taser. Zaps him with a taser and he runs off. So Claire, Owen and Waters go together to look for Maisie, but Maisie's in the car with Settler, Grant and Malcolm, but the car, they then see the swarm of locusts on fire, start setting fire to everything on the island, and then one of them drops down on the car and confuses Malcolm, and he crashes on the car. Well, he crashes the car, and the car then flips on its slide down the hill where Claire, Owen and Waters are. They manage to join up the two groups, where they're then attacked by this massive dinosaur. It looks like a T-Rex, but it's got a longer nose than a T-Rex. And it turns out it's one of the world's greatest predators, which I thought the T-Rex was, but it turns out it's a new one. Then the dinosaur attacks them, but they manage to get away, where Malcolm throws one of the burning locusts into the dinosaur's mouth, where it hurts it and pretty much gives him time to get to safety with the others. They then get attacked by a dinosaur again, but Malcolm stabs it a couple of times. It gets tased a couple of times and then just runs off thinking, doesn't really need any of this, does it? Whilst the park is burning, or whilst the island is burning, the system for the island sends a signal to the dinosaurs, because the dinosaurs all have chips in their brains, and sends a signal to all the dinosaurs to get to safety to the middle of the island, where they're going to be protected by some sort of metal shield from the fire. At this same point, they've got to try to turn on the system that protects planes and aircraft from the birds. Whilst they do that, Settler and Claire go down to turn on the system. They end up doing that, but they're attacked by locusts. But they manage to turn the defense system on. Owen with Grant try to find Blue's kid. They do that. They find little Blue, and they get little Blue back to the group. The group then go all together to the airfield, where they get on the helicopter, where we do see this massive fight between the T-Rex and the other predator dinosaur. It's not really that much of an interesting fight. You do see a three-way fight between like the big claw dinosaur, the T-Rex and the new predator. They both, the T-Rex and the big claw dinosaur, team up, kill the new predator, and that's the end of that. And then the team get away on the helicopter and get to safety. At this same time, Dodgson is in the middle of, he's on the train, but the system gets turned off again. He then gets stuck somewhere. He tries to leave on foot, but it is then attacked by the poison-spitting dinosaurs, where they pretty much attack him and kill him. And he dies just like the computer guy did in the first one. And then the movie pretty much just ends with everything being sorted out. They also saved Dr. Wu on the island, and he's managed to fix the entire swarm problem by genetically altering one of the locusts, so that locust can control the entire swarm, and he pushes them away from all the wheat fields. And Dr. Wu is then released, even though this guy has done a shitload of bad stuff, but he's just released. That's just stupid. And Owen then returns Blue to, baby Blue to Blue, and Blue pretty much, you get a scene between Owen and Blue where he pretty much says you're welcome and Blue says thank you, as a way a dinosaur can. And Settler and Grant, they get together at the end, which I liked because I think they should be together. And the movie just ends with them all at Congress pretty much telling them that they need to live with dinosaurs now, that the world needs to live with dinosaurs, and the UN then says that's fine. They give the island to the dinosaurs, but they tell the rest of the world you can't hunt them. We're now humans and dinosaurs living together. And that's how the film ends. Again, I didn't really like the film. I think it's too long and the story felt more like a spy film. And yeah, I'm kind of disappointed. And that's the end of my review. If you like this review, give it a like. You dislike this review, give it a dislike. And if you like my content, do think about subscribing. It's Entertainment World Soldier. Bye.